Thank you for downloading this episode of the Physicians Gallery podcast. We have expanded our gallery. It's free to visit with no need to book a ticket. Over the next few months, we'll be exploring some of the fascinating objects we now have on display, from alchemical scrolls and battlefield medicine at Culloden to bloodletting and homeopathy. Please support us and help us to reach new audiences by liking, following, or leaving a comment on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. And please do pay a visit to our gallery when you're next in Edinburgh. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Daisy Cunynghame, the Physicians Gallery's Heritage Manager.
And I'm Rachel Forrest. I'm the Physicians Gallery's Heritage Engagement Coordinator.
And our object today is an illustration taken from a book by John Haslam called Illustrations of Madness, and it's on permanent display in our Physicians Gallery. And the reason why this is interesting, as far as I'm concerned anyway, is that it is the first known example of patient art ever reproduced in print.
That is interesting.
Start with a physical description, because I am aware that this is a podcast and I keep picking things that are quite visual for a non-visual medium. So this is a printed black and white illustration, and I'll say if you are that way inclined, I would strongly recommend Googling John Haslam Air Loom, just so you can see it, because it is complicated, but I'll go through it. In the illustration, there is a man sitting at a machine pulling a lever. Now, the dimensions are all wrong. The machine is strangely huge, and the man is tiny, and the lever is gigantic. It's all quite just off. You know, when you look at something and you're like, that feels unsettlingly strange. Some people have said that it looks almost like a Salvador Dali image. So there's just something, it's very beautifully made. It's very well constructed, but odd.
Dali's paintings always make me think of dreams, where things come across as normal, but just a bit off. Something's not quite right.
It's exactly that. So the machine, there's tubes coming out of the top of it, and there's tubes coming out the side of it, which are going into oak barrels. So something's either coming out of or going into this machine. And there are all sorts of little faraway figures. So there's a man sitting at a desk and a woman sitting down and another one lying down in the distance. So there's a lot going on. But do not worry, I will explain it all to you. The author of the book that this illustration is in was a man called John Haslam, and he was the apothecary at the Bethlehem Asylum in London, also known as the Bedlam. And that is where the word Bedlam comes from. And the patient who drew the image was a patient in the asylum. So the patient was a guy called James Tilly Matthews, and Matthews had an interesting life. He had been a businessman initially, a tea broker from London. Somehow or other, he became embroiled in the French Revolutionary Wars. It's unclear exactly how. He was imprisoned in France for 3 years. There was some suggestion that he was a spy, but I'm not fully sure if he was a spy for the British or for the French or both.
Oh, maybe he was a double agent.
Quite possibly. It's unclear exactly what happened there. So after he returned from France, he was incarcerated in Bethlehem. I think the 3 years imprisonment in France had not done good things for his mental health.
Do you think he was treated badly when he was in France?
I would say yes. But again, we don't know the details. The Bethlehem Hospital was founded in London over 700 years ago and continued to be used as a mental hospital right up until after the Second World War. So it is the oldest psychiatric institution in Britain and had a significant reputation, hence the use of the word Bedlam. So it was known for not having good conditions. It was known to not be conducive to improving your mental health being put in the Bedlam. And it wasn't great. There weren't great conditions. One of the things that it was known for was that for a period of time, at least, you could pay money as a member of the public to go and look at the patients.
No, I had no idea.
Yes.
As if it was like some sort of human zoo.
Yes.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, and I think that is the sort of thing that really added to its reputation. And as I said, that is why it became one of the reasons why it became known as the Bedlam, and why Bedlam is now a word that we all know. So, as I said, this image is the first example of psychiatric patient art ever reproduced in print. As far as we know, someone might one day find an earlier example, but as far as we know. And the author of the book, the apothecary, I think it's a bit dubious that he called himself the author, because almost all of the text is just exactly reproducing what the patient himself actually said. So it's Matthew's description of what he experienced, his psychosis, his condition, and then it's essentially, typed up, well, not typed up, but written up by Haslam. And he says, "Oh, I've written a book," but have you really?
No, he's kind of edited it.
Yeah, and he wrote an introduction, I suppose, but
Oh,
there's
well
not a
done
lot
him.
of yeah, but he's really is documenting what is happening to Matthews and how Matthews is describing his situation. He's not really diagnosing him or treating him according to this book. He's just describing it. So it's an account of the patient's his persecutions, his bodily experiences, the visions that he was having. So his experience of what was going on. I'm not even going to attempt to do the retrospective diagnosis and decide what was happening to this patient, but they are fairly extreme visions or delusions that are happening. There's no indication, by the way, in any of this that Matthews is in any way dangerous. It doesn't seem to be a condition which is violent. But, and this is where it gets a little bit fiddly, so bear with me. I'm going to describe what Matthews viewed as happening to himself. So he said that he was the emperor of the whole world, and that the reason why he was stuck in the Bethlehem was a result of conspiracy. He felt that there was an organized gang that had power over him, and they had planted a magnet in his brain. And that's what this image represents. All the figures in the distance are people who are controlling Matthews. So there's this gang of villains who are tormenting him using an heirloom. So the object that you see, the big machine, is an heirloom. And it's powered by, he said, the flatulence of dogs.
Wow.
Yep. So he is being mind controlled by this heirloom. It is 7 meters tall, 9 meters wide. It's made of oak and brass. So the heirloom weaves air and gases into a warp of magnetic fluid, which is then directed at the victim. So in this case, Matthews.
And he's forced to sit in front of it and have this weaved air directed at him.
Essentially, yes. And it gets more complex. It's fueled by a combination of fetid flatulence, including spermatic animal rays, putrid human breath, and gas from the anus of a horse. I don't know
Wow.
why we're so flatulence focused.
Yeah, there's 2 types of fart.
And he talks about he is being tortured, not in reality, in his description, which is why I think that you are definitely right, Rachel, when you said what happened in France. We don't know what happened in France,
Yeah.
but we do know what his delusions now are.
It sounds as if before he went to France, he was working. He had a business. He was very capable. He must have been okay, but something obviously happened in France to really damage him.
Yes, I agree with that. But as always, I want to stay away from anything that smacks of us trying to do anything actually medical. So I'm
Yes,
not going to try to say
'cause we have no clue.
we don't know. We don't know exactly how well he was before he went. He talks about fiber ripping and lobster cracking, which again sounds, we don't know exactly what that means, but sounds unpleasant. And it's all operated by these undercover terrorists. He's given them names. So there's Bill the King, who was the leader of the gang. There was Jack the schoolmaster, who was the one who knew how the heirloom worked. There was a pockmarked lady who was known as the Glove Woman. And there was a woman who was supposed to be the sort of the public face of the gang. So they're all behind the scenes being very sinister, but they then have a woman called Augusta who is, wins people round, who goes out into the world as an undercover agent, manipulating the people around her. When you get into description, so this is a full book, and so we cannot possibly hope to cover the complexity of the delusions that Matthews was experiencing. There's a lot happening here. It becomes quite clear that this is a tool of war, and that this is something which is being deployed in Britain by the French, or the French are somehow controlling all of this happening. And so his condition brings into it the reality of the situation, the relationship between France and Britain at this time. Britain is under threat from France, according to his delusion.
And he's he's more aware of it than he probably thinks anyone else is, because he's been held in France.
Yes, absolutely. And who knows, he might have known some state secret. If he was a spy, he might well have known something. Obviously not this, but something that other people didn't know. So there might be the idea of him being privy to some secrets. And he felt that these people were all over the place, all over the city of London, hiding and controlling people, beginning to control people with these magnetic vapors.
The idea of an air loom is something that I've not come across before. For him to feel or imagine that the air is being weaved, I just find it really interesting.
I think it is something where it's so difficult when you're looking at the history, because you can only go on what is recorded, and so you don't know what you're missing. But it does seem like a lot of the delusions that psychiatric patients suffered from were much less complicated. So it wasn't uncommon in the records to see somebody who thought they were the King of England, or who thought that they knew somebody famous or were somebody famous. But his descriptions are so detailed. There's so much more than I'm describing here, that it's just the complexity of what he was describing was so much detail. The outcome of all of this is that eventually Matthews is moved to a different asylum, a apparently much nicer asylum, the London House Asylum, and he is given work to do. He's support for other patients, so he's kept busy. He did remain in an asylum for the rest of his life, but it does seem to have been in much better conditions than the Bedlam. And a big part of the reason why his situation improves is because Haslam, the guy who quote unquote wrote this book, was subject to quite serious review. So at this time, there's a big inquiry into the condition in madhouses. There's a lot of criticisms made, and particularly made of the Bedlam and Haslam's role in this. So the conditions that he is treating patients in are not good. Now, arguably, Haslam is not the most senior person there. He's only the apothecary. So he might have ended up being the scapegoat for actually a lot of other people, the managers and the physician, using him as a scapegoat so that they can get away with it.
Yeah, he was in charge of the medication.
Yeah. So he wasn't railing against the system. He was very happy to be part of that system and to not treat patients particularly well, but he was not ultimately the person who decided what the budget was. And Haslam lost his job as a result, and he spent the rest of his life trying to make his way back into medical society. He bought a qualification from Aberdeen University and set himself up as a physician. And just to say, put that into a bit of context, Aberdeen at this time was known as a place where you could buy your medical qualification without having done a single course, without ever having set foot in the city. So,
Oh, wow. So dodgy Aberdeen.
yes. And so, yeah, if you wanted a short, it's not like that now, it's much better. No, nothing against Aberdeen. But yeah, if you wanted a shortcut to respectability at this time, then that was a way to do it. So he was obviously trying to regain the reputation that he had lost, and part of that was the Matthews situation was fairly high profile. It was the way in which he was treated and the way in which he was talked about in this book. And bear in mind, of course, that this book, the first line of this book, the first words in this book are James Tilly Matthews. Without Matthews' consent, he is being exposed to the world. He is not being anonymized. His name is being used. And everything that he does is being shared widely.
And I'm assuming that he didn't receive any sort of compensation.
That is a very good assumption. Yes, you're absolutely right. he was not asked for his consent, and he did not receive any compensation. So I think even just the fact that this book was written, because it was fairly common at this time to anonymize your patients, and there's plenty of other books which talk about psychiatric patients who do not call them by name. So this book is exposing him and his family, and I think that is a part of the scandal, as well as the conditions that he is kept in.
And at no point in this story has there been any evidence that anyone has actually tried to help him.
Just to finish up, I have not seen this in person, but I really, really want to. There is an artist called Rod Dickinson who in 2002 produced an heirloom. So an actual physical representation of this illustration. It's huge, made of wood and brass. It's got the giant handles and the oak barrels and all the tubes and everything. It's got a row of little jars. One of them says seminal fluid, brackets, male, close brackets. It looks amazing, and you can find it online, but I don't think it's currently on display anywhere.
And does it use real farts to power it?
I'm gonna say no, but it does have this little row of jars that says, putrid efflusia and all these sorts of things on it. It looks amazing, and it's huge.
That's incredible.
And I really, really want to see it, but I don't think it's on display anywhere. But yeah, have a look online.
Yeah.
Rod Dickinson heirloom. It's a fascinating object.
I'd love to see that.
And come to the gallery and see the illustration of this sort of very, very strange but very evocative image of James Tilly Matthews. Thank you for listening to this Physicians Gallery podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, click like, or leave a positive review or comment. We truly appreciate your support because it helps us reach more people. If you'd like to know more about the Physicians Gallery, our exhibitions and upcoming events, please check out our website and social media pages. Links are in the description for this episode. Thank you.